trust yourself, trust your instincts, in spite of everything that's going on around you, in spite of the messaging that you may be even hearing from, folks who are on television who are trying to cast a perspective on who you are. Know that you have a unique design, a distinct purpose, and that you are equipped with everything you need.
This is a journey.
Let me take you on a journey.
There will still be
The journey. The journey.
New sheriff in town, and his name is
The journey.
Journey.
This thing is bigger than Nino Brown. This is
The journey. The journey.
What is it that moved you?
The journey. The journey. The journey. The journey.
Welcome back to another episode of The Journey. I'm your host, Larry Robinson, and today we have a Memphis icon that you probably already know. But listen, before we get to him, we got a quote from the great Maya Angelou. And it goes a little something like this. We delight in the beauty of the butterfly, but rarely admit the changes it has gone through to achieve that beauty. What does that mean? We know a lot of people that we're looking at the end of their journey and we're saying, man, they're great, man, they're awesome, all of these things. But you don't know that person's journey. You don't know that person's story. You're looking at the finished product. We have a brother like that today. His name is Bertram Williams, affectionately known as BJ, but he's a native Memphian, Overton High School, University of Memphis, entrepreneur. He's an actor. He's a man of the soil, meaning that he's into agriculture, and he's a great husband. Oh, I left out one thing. He got the year right, 1911, but he just was a little late. So listen, he's a man of Omega Psi Phi. Hey, BJ, thanks for coming, man.
I appreciate
you, brother.
Seriously.
So we're going to start out. We're going to start out the early days.
Yeah.
Now, what part of the city were you raised?
Yeah, so I was reared in Hickory Hill proper.
Okay.
I went to Newberry Elementary School,
Okay.
spent some time in the Wooddale pipeline. And I should mention too that my family's origin stories are both on my mother's side, Haywood County, Brownsville, Tennessee,
Okay.
and South Memphis is where
Okay,
my
we're going to
father's
get to the
from.
background.
Okay.
But I want to know where you started because
Yeah.
I want to ask, the early days, who was in the house with you?
Yeah, so I grew up fortunately with my mother and father, younger sister, and for a season, my great-grandmother was living with us as well, Bertha
Okay.
Wilbert.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we had what folks might consider like a, traditional family structure.
Okay. Okay, so who outside the house, I'm going to change this question up. Typically, I ask you who outside the house influenced you.
Yeah.
But I'm going to ask you, who outside the house did you trust?
That's, wow. I grew up playing sports, and I had a few coaches. Gary Greer is one who's also a man of Omega Psi Phi.
Oh, yeah.
He, another coach and friend or father of a friend of mine, Daryl Mitchell, they both were men who I felt like allowed us to really be honest and to ask the tough or candid questions. And so those are two folks who, when I look back at my upbringing, who I felt like I could kind of be my full self around.
Right. Okay. What decision did you make as a young person that ended up having a lifelong impact on you?
I think my willingness to lean into the arts
Okay.
in a very public way. And what I mean by that is if you grew up in Memphis City schools or Shelby County schools, there's a certain kind of code
Right.
you kind of have to
Talking
abide
about you
by.
acting.
Right, exactly.
You're like, man, come on, man.
Exactly.
You
And
trying
so-
to tell us something?
Exactly.
Right.
And so I was, in school at Overton, and I remember pointedly this there was an initiation for the drama club that we had to go through. And mind you, I had done my best to honor that cool dude code throughout my entire school experience. And so, you know what it's like to pledge something. And so in that week, we had to wear mime makeup and just do things that forced us to kind of exist outside of that code, to be weird, to be artists, to be creative. And so I feel like that week in particular, when I kind of shed that cool cloak that allowed me to just kind of stand in my weirdness or in my ability to think outside of the box or not be subject to like groupthink. You know?
Right. That's interesting that you said that, because you said stand outside in your weirdness. I wonder how many kids, you know, don't do those things. Because I know there were some things I didn't do, like acting, that I think I would have loved to do, you know, or be engaged in the arts, because it wasn't looked at as tough. It didn't have the machismo that was necessary to survive in those urban communities. And, you know, you could have, but you just didn't, you know, have anybody supporting that. You know, I know some cats that were really talented, but never explored that. So how different are you from the person you dreamed you would be as a kid?
You know, I would say that I'm definitely on the journey. I'm close to existing in that space. What I feel like I still want for is a type of freedom that allows me to really say what I'm thinking publicly, because I feel like we've been conditioned as a society, as a community of people, to just kind of go along to get along. And so that's a place that I aspire to kind of be in more solidly. And it's connected to, you know, financial freedom. It's connected to, you know, a range of other variables. But, you know, I see myself on that path. And I can say that when I think about the vision that I've had or had for myself as a young man, like, you know, I am him. And I'm happy I could sit with my younger self and feel, you know, like I'm deserving of whatever, like, respect or honor that I would have been wanting for as a young man. That makes sense.
Wow. So when did you know you was gonna be okay? When did you know that, you know, this thing called life, I got it, I can do this?
I think you can relate to this in that, you know, life is gonna come with its ups and downs, and I think we'll experience that through the end. I am okay in the sense that I've adopted the mentality of like, come what may. And I trust in God, I trust in my faith and my individual ability or agency to deal with the things as they come. And I know it's gonna be something different every month, every year. But I do feel equipped to like stand, as folks would say, 10 toes down and be willing to like confront the thing, you know, devoid of fear. In terms of being okay, like from a material standpoint, you know, all of that stuff is fleeting. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But just as a man, as a brother, like I feel equipped to deal with whatever comes my way. And so when did I feel like that? I was right now. I gotta say, Larry, that the invitation to sit in this chair with you or on this show with you, it was something that I was hesitant to do because I've looked at previous guests and have felt like they have been more solidly in that position that you described, you know, a little further down the path on the journey. And so it took a little kind of coaching for myself to be willing to come and sit. And so by having done that, having accepted the invitation, you know, like now is the moment where I feel like,
cool.
I'm okay.
Cool. Well, I'm really honored that we could give that to you, because brother, you doing it.
I'm just trying to play my role.
Proud of you, bro. So listen. Okay, this is the last question of this segment, and everybody's getting ready for it. When'd you know? When'd you know that you was a black man?
Yeah.
Hold on. Listen, we're going to come right back on the journey where Brother Bertram, or BJ, is going to tell us when he realized he was a brother. Stay right there. This is The Journey on the Kazukia Network.
For 40 years, the Mid-South has turned to Regional One Health's Elvis Presley Trauma Center in times of crisis. For 40 years, we have turned despair into hope, pain into peace, adversity into triumph. We're proud to serve as the Mid-South's only Level 1 trauma center, and to measure our success not by the patients we see, but the people who walk out our door. Regional One Health, specializing in tomorrows.
Welcome back to The Journey. Now listen, we were speaking with BJ on the other side, and we're going to get to that. But I got to ask a few other questions before we get to that meaty question. You know, it's called a tease. So listen to this. So first I'm going to ask you, BJ, who are you? If someone was to walk up to you, didn't know, never saw P-Valley, never knew Bertram Williams or anything about you.
Yeah.
Walk up to you and say, who are you? What would you say?
I am you.
Okay, what does that mean?
I feel like the way I look to show up in this life is like as a reflection, somebody who is connected in a real way to every living being.
Okay.
Somebody who is always looking to model vulnerability such that folks can not only see themselves in me, but that we might be able to see and move toward a future that feels a little better than prior to our being here.
Right.
And lastly, you know, I would say that I'm a creative.
Okay.
I feel gifted in that sense in my ability to think about problems, think about opportunities, and really put together like a vision for the way that we can speak to those issues. And that, is directly related to art in the most literal sense too.
Right.
But yeah, I'm a hopeless creative.
What's it mean to be vulnerable? You mentioned vulnerability.
Yeah.
What's that mean?
So I think it's not only like undergirded by like honesty, but the type of openness or absence of being guarded that allows for folks to like actually trust you and to feel compelled to reveal more of themselves. I think vulnerability, and you spoke to the other side of this when you talked about the machismo that we are kind of trained up in.
Right.
But I think that there's some softness that comes with vulnerability
Right.
that allows for folks to like say what they need or when they've been harmed in the moment when we are trained to just like pretend like everything cool.
Right. Right. Man, what's your superpower?
I think I kind of spoke to it in when I mentioned my creative mind, and I feel like we all got it, like that power to imagine something.
Okay.
Connected to the faith that allows us to realize it. That's my superpower. I think that's all of our superpower.
Right.
Like, yeah.
So when you so if they were giving you an award and you had to pick your theme music, because every superhero got theme music.
Yeah.
What's your theme music?
All right, this is my joint too. Hugh Masekela, The Boy Is Doing It.
Oh yeah?
You got it. The boy is doing it. Said the boy is doing it. He's doing it in Morocco.
Oh, wow.
It feels just like the ultimate like confidence boost. The one, it's like black. It's I
got
feel
an
like
opportunity to meet Hugh Masekela.
Really?
Oh yeah, man.
Really?
Yeah. And realizing who he was, it still sends chills down my spine, man. So you bringing that up really took me back. So thank you for that moment.
Oh man, shout out, rest in peace to a legend. And that's so cool you got to meet him. Yeah.
Oh man. Oof. So let's go back. We talked about when you realized you was a brother. When you realized that you were different than maybe God's other children?
You know, I got two quick answers to that.
Okay.
The first, and I think most unfortunate or most indicative of like what it meant, the unfortunate reality of being a brother in an oppressive system. I don't remember what triggered it, but I can remember where I was in traffic in the car with my mom when I was navigating I was school age, elementary school age, and I remember looking at my mother in her eyes with tears saying that I wish I was white.
Whoa.
And what that tells me now is that I had deduced at that young age that white folks had a different walk than I had at 6 years old or 7 years old. And so, you know, I think
I know that hurt her, man.
Yeah, but I do feel like that was a defining moment because a lot of my childhood is a blur, but I remember that so distinctly, and whatever happened that day, I knew that there was a difference. But you did something for me. You opened my eyes, like, as it relates to like responding to this question, because when you were signing off, you said when you realized you were a brother, and this symbolizes like a type of pride, right?
Right.
And so like I think we could also think about that question like, when did you know you were a brother?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I feel like there have been instances when, you know, we've stood up for each other.
Right.
And I can think of, again, school age moments where folks might, in Memphis, we do the checking thing.
Right.
And without belaboring the point, knowing that I had the agency to stand up for somebody who might have been in a position that was vulnerable.
Right.
Or somebody that's being picked on, and kind of choosing in that moment at that age to always try to look out for folks who were in a less fortunate position. That also feels like, you know, a moment when I knew I was a brother. Did I give you a distinct answer or a moment when I knew I was a brother? No, but you know, it's something to be teased out there.
Cool. All right. So childhood, you had a younger sister.
Yeah.
Mother and father. So the two parents, two kids type of situation.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. You know, what's your relationship like with your parents? What's your relationship like with your little sister?
Yeah. So at present, I've been really fortunate to spend some time getting to know my parents as adults in the last couple of years. Same situation with my sister. It's sobering. And I feel like for the first time, not for the first time, but as I'm moving through adulthood, my respect for them has grown so much. And I say that because as a young man, and this almost pains me to say it out loud or in public, but I was embarrassed of my parents who were working class folks doing relatively well, but because they were not in a position to buy me Jordans when I wanted them, or because we didn't have this house or that car, I remember processing like a version of embarrassment and like a desire for them to have risked more and not fully realizing what they had already risked and what they had sacrificed to even provide what they did for my sister and I, which is, you know, something to be more than thankful for. And so I spent my teen years just kind of despondent. I spent my teen years trying to be out of the house as much as I could, rebelling in ways that were harmful to myself and other people at times. Probably embarrassing to my parents at times due to some of the trouble I got into as a young man. Got put out of 2 high schools.
You got put out of 2 high schools?
Yeah, and so, you know, I think about, you know, what it really means to show up as Black people in this country. They've done a stellar job. And so, yeah, I've just been in love with them and in love with getting to know them in the ways that we have been able to in the last couple of years.
Okay. Tell me about your sister. What's it like to be a big brother? And then I'd like to know, what's it like to be a big brother and an actor that, you know, many people see, women see?
Yeah. So my sister, she is not a friend. We're 5 years in age difference. And she is somebody who, you know, I've come to admire because she will say what's on her mind. We have a really like brotherly, sisterly like sense of humor.
Right.
And it's just nice to have siblings that you have, you know, 20, 30-year running jokes with.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
And so
Is it grounding?
it is grounding, and I do feel accountable to her. And to answer the second part of your question, as I'm navigating this season of life where like I'm in the public eye a little bit more and people have expectations of me due to, for example, the content nature of the show that I'm on, you know, it has created a different dynamic where she has friends who, you know, are making asides about their view on me, mostly positive, actually all positive. But I do think, you know, this season of life has allowed her to see me in the light that is affirming, you know what I mean? And I feel like I'm actually getting to exist in kind of like a, you know, cool big brother territory, you know? And, you know, it helps if I can shoot her a couple $100 every now and then. It feels cool. And so what I'm looking forward to though is like she, like myself, like we all are navigating, you know, challenges along the journey, just being in deeper and more intimate community with her and my parents and being able to talk about the, you know, the vulnerable spaces, the thoughts that may be troublesome. And so, you know, I feel fortunate to have the family set up that I got.
Got it. You mentioned being put out of 2 high schools. There's some kids out there that maybe are running into some of that same stuff. And I truly want you, if you know a kid that has had some challenges, to share this. If you're seeing this, share this with that kid, because maybe they can get a sense of pride that, you know what, story's not over.
Yeah.
So I'd like you to kind of unpack.
Yeah.
You know, so Overton was your 3rd high school?
Right. Yep.
Okay, so what was the first one?
Started out at Central.
Okay, started out of Central.
Yeah.
Okay. Second one?
Wooddale.
Okay. And then this is the Overton. Okay, so what happened at Wooddale?
So I think that's the most important one to discuss because the Wooddale culture, I think a lot of folks can see being played out and celebrated in music in our like youth culture today, because there was like a pretty prevalent like gang culture. And we know that, you know, the gang mentality at its essence is a tribal thing, which is something that we should connect to. However, there are some elements of it that are just misguided. And so I did find myself being in that community, being in that practice. And so I had my crew of guys I was running with. And while, you know, if we're being honest, a lot of them are like social clubs in a way.
Right.
And so you just, you know, you and your friend group deciding how y'all want to spend time. And so, you know, we ain't do nothing that ultimately landed anybody like behind bars or nothing. However, you know, I think about what it might have looked like if I had the courage to use my voice in that setting to direct us in literally any other direction other than smoking weed before school and after school and in the middle of school, or you know, choosing to, you know, start a fight with this other group just because we feel like that's how we assert ourselves, or get notoriety, or thinking that that is what the girls want to see. Because I feel like that is a huge influence, if we're being honest, like the perspective of women.
Well, now I want to back up, and I know you're talking about what happened at Wooddale.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you, because your job today on P-Valley.
Yeah.
How is that? Is there any cognitive dissonance that happens because of the subject matter versus who you are or what you want to portray to society?
Yeah. Could you nail that down a little bit more for me when you say the subject matter? Like what elements?
Well,
specifically?
so I mean, you see the club, you see the strip club, you have that mix, and then you also have what goes into the rap industry and that whole mix. And you mentioned about the music and things like that.
Yeah.
So just that whole, I guess, ecosystem in a sense that exists around the strip club, the music, the rappers, the money, all of that stuff. That's very different than who you are as a person.
Yeah.
You're much more organic, natural, real than what I see the role that's being played in those that are around you in that space. So
right.
So does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, and I appreciate the clarity. I feel like the issue, and this is a quick preface, but as it relates to the culture and the art that is produced, that is supposed to be reflective and not celebratory, is that sometimes we end up celebrating stuff that's detrimental to the culture.
Right.
And I think we get conditioned into doing that, and that's a whole other theory to explore. Right. However, there are people within the culture that are putting out reflections that I think resonate with people, but are honest too, and not necessarily celebratory. And I feel like P-Valley as a show lives in that space more.
Okay.
And by nature of it being a television show, it allows us to reflect what the current culture is in music and club culture, but it is like a fixed narrative. And so what we have an opportunity to do in this universe that Katori Hall has created is to see people who are existing in this space, but that are moving through it. And ultimately, if I, as I know Katori and her intentions, we will see the hero's journey in the rap artist who may be speaking violence this season, but next season, there'll probably be a pivot,
Right.
And I think that same opportunity to exist for real life artists, who allow us into their stories, who may be espousing one thing, but, will ultimately, hopefully make a pivot that would, move people closer towards the type of culture and existence that we hope to see them, show up in. Did that answer the question?
I got you. Okay. Any regrets? Anything you take a mulligan on?
I feel like I was, and I guess I'm still a part of a generation that was in the early phase of the microwave generation mentality. And with that, I believe that in my earlier years, late teens, early 20s, I wish I would have worked harder. I feel like we started seeing glimpses and hearing stories of people who got rich overnight or didn't have to put in the work to achieve the thing we were ultimately seeking. And I think I spent too many seasons just, dreaming or thinking that because I was naturally talented that things would fall in my lap. And I've spent time, I'm now in my early 30s, really almost making up for lost time and trying to cultivate that work ethic muscle in a more focused way than, I was trained to do or that I knew to do when I was younger.
Okay. Well, this is it. This is the last question.
Dang, this was too short. Let's do this over. No, man, I got more to say.
So, there's a lot of young people
that
are listening to you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of old people listening to you. But I would like you to leave them with a piece of you, a bit of you that they can know that they were here at this moment checking out the real BJ Williams.
Yeah.
And I'd like you to say it in that camera.
Yeah. Trust yourself, trust your instincts, in spite of everything that's going on around you, in spite of the messaging that you may be even hearing from, folks who are on television who are trying to cast a perspective on who you are, know that you have a unique design, a distinct purpose, and that you are equipped with everything you need to realize your destiny. And as it relates to your destiny, know that it is whatever you imagine. What you see for yourself, you will become. And can't nobody get in the way of that. So trust yourself, trust your instincts, and know that you got what it takes.
Beautiful. Don't forget the poem at the beginning. You got to see the journey.
Yeah.
The journey. Because now you're looking at finished products. You're looking at people that have been crafted and burned to be at a certain way and follow our dreams. But you're going to have those same dreams if you're not having them already. And just you got to stay the course, because that road is going to straighten out. It may look crazy right now, but it's going to straighten out. I promise you. Listen, I'm Larry Robinson for Bertram Williams, BJ. I tried to say BJ and Bertram together, but Bertram Williams. Thank you.
I appreciate you, bro.
And thank you for joining us again on the journey on the Kazuki Network. Till the next time. Thank you to our partners, the Delta Boulay. To hear more incredible stories like this, be sure to download the Kazukian app from the App Store or Google Play. Or check out the Journey Memphis podcast on all your major podcast providers. Also, check us out on the Kazukian Network.